Hi, folks, and welcome to Film Optimists, where we talk about all things film with a healthy dose of optimism. I'm your co host, Seth Boyd.
And I am Megan Tierney.
Okay, today, we're going to be discussing our favorite films we saw in 2021. Now, folks, this is not a typical top of the year list. This is our films we saw in 2021, not necessarily movies that came out in 2021, because I'm going to be honest. Megan, I didn't know we'd be doing this podcast so pretty late in the year. And with COVID restrictions and everything, I don't think it's fair to say we saw enough movies that debuted in 2021 to give an
Yes.
accurate, this is the best of list. Would you agree, Megan?
Oh, I agree. Yeah, this was a very wishy-washy, I think, year for film in terms of
Yes.
like release dates and everything. So we have a list. Majority of our list, or some of them are from 2021. Of course, we wanted to include that as well. But this is just our top watches of 2021 that we got to see. So I'm excited. I'm so excited to hear Seth's list and to go over this.
I think part of the reason too is like, as we've said in the podcast before, there's so much great film out there. So if you are ever feeling like there's nothing in cinemas you want to see or nothing in your streaming services like Netflix, check out some older stuff. Go to the library. There's the Canopy Free app.
Hmm.
There's just so many great movies from all over the world, from all over the history of film that you can discover at any time. And sometimes for me, the films that I really stay with me are films that I saw for the first time, and I have strong memories of seeing them, even though they came out long ago, where maybe I just missed them, and so the case for my list. So we'll
For
be
sure.
counting down our top five. Megan, do you want to start?
I would love to start.
All
Yes.
right, I'm excited.
All right, folks. So my number five is certainly the oldest film on my list. This was a like Christmas break watch where the my situation is that dad was home for Christmas break, which he never does, and
Mm,
we got him a Roku finally, and he only watches the free Roku movies. So a lot of that is classic Hollywood films of bygone era. And from that list came a fun watch for me, which is actually a really important film to watch if you are into like cinema at all. And for me, that was Stagecoach from 1939. Very classic. It was one of those dad moments where he says, "How have you not seen Stagecoach?" And it's like, well, I just haven't, and now I have. And it really held up. I will say, like, it is a 1939 film, Old West. So getting over the racism that is just so apparent and like full frontal center in this
right.
film is a little jarring, coming from a I just hadn't seen an older film like that in a long time, so it was a little like taken aback by that. But
Yeah.
I'm actually putting it on my list because it really held up for me, and it was very. I was talking with Seth a little bit about it earlier, before this recording, and I told him that it was really a lot more like funny and raunchily funny than I expected, especially for an old Western film that you kind of don't think of. Seth really helped me realize like it's before this like this I can't like find the words, but sanctification of like the Hollywood era of the 50s and stuff like that. It's very much not that. There was something
Yeah.
specific, right,
So
Seth?
there was the Hayes Code is something that went into
Yes.
effect in 1934, but it actually got a little bit more serious later. Even in the late 30s, you have movies like this that are, for whatever reason, a lot more raunchy than movies in the
Yes.
40s and 50s. And
Hmm.
the Hayes Code, though, I think officially discarded by like 68, but it was in its peak in terms of being enforced in the 40s and 50s. Unless we have a film historian listener who's going to correct me on
I
that,
know.
but that's my understanding of
Well,
it.
I didn't even know the code. So,
Yeah.
yes, when Seth brought that to my attention, I was like, wow, that's very interesting. And it certainly was the case for this movie. I mean, it was very like sex comedy heavy
Mm,
and premarital like sex comedy heavy, like very much about just cowboys and dames sleeping together and stuff like that. And but the comedy was really a fun aspect. There was some crazy like stunts in there as well with
yeah.
the actual stage coach and in the Wild Wild West and stuff like that. I mean, certainly it was also problematic as well in that they probably just threw a bunch of actors at these like stunts and just said like do this and didn't really care about safety measures or anything like that. But certainly fun to watch and like pretty remarkable to see personally. So it made my list certainly, and I can see why it's an important film to watch for film hits out there. So it was
Yeah,
a fun
absolutely.
watch.
I'm so glad you liked it, Megan. I think on the note of like yeah, John Ford was a racist, and he was,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like there are some older movies that it's a little bit easier to get away with, or like
right.
it's more casual, but like the westerns are, you kind of have to know that and still put up with it. I frankly think a lot of these movies are worth putting up with because there's still so
Hmm.
much there
Yeah.
culturally, and just so much, especially if you're curious about the history of film, of where these things come from.
Yeah.
John Ford was directing for something like 40 or 50 years. He started in the silent era,
Gosh.
and he made a lot of movies. I'll look it up real quick. But something that I was surprising to me, this was apparently a movie Orson Welles was watching and rewatching while he was directing Citizen Kane.
Really? Wow,
Yeah,
that's very
and
surprising.
because stylistically you don't see it,
Mm-mm.
right? It's
But
not
I mean,
exactly clear.
cinematography wise, I thought that was
That's
where the
true.
film shined for me, is like these sweeping cinematography scenes were a big win, a big plus for me.
Yeah, the cinematography is great, and that was a lot of like, this was for Orson Welles. Citizen Kane was his first movie. Yeah, he made over 100 movies, it looks like.
Ford,
So yeah, John Ford did.
Jesus.
Yeah, he made over 100 movies, so quite a significant contribution to cinema. But yes, something that is thematically
Hmm.
and tonally so different, like Citizen Kane,
Yeah.
is still drawing from John Ford. So I think that's a great
Wow.
example of how stuff comes from the last place you'd expect. Cool. Well, great pick, Megan.
Yes.
My number 5 is going to be an older one as well, a movie I had no idea existed until I heard about it recommended on a podcast.
Mm,
That's The Flop House. Thank you, Elliot Kalin.
mm.
It's a Czech New Wave movie called Daisies, directed by Vera Chitovlia. It is a surrealist feminist comedy that is very much up my alley, and I think you would enjoy this as well, Megan. But this is
Ooh.
kind of like a feminist female Marx Brother movie, and that
Okay.
this is just two people fucking around, and that's the whole premise of the movie.
Okay.
Like a recurring thing is tricking a older rich guy to buy them dinner, and then just trashing the restaurant, and then leaving and doing this again. And
Mm.
it's a very wild, chaotic movie. It's a very stylized, like amazing edits are happening, and I can understand some people watching this and being horrified or being deeply confused. But
Yeah.
it's kind of in that way that like Bridesmaids is fun to watch. Like what's her name, I can't even blank up.
Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig. Yeah, like so much,
Yes.
it's fun seeing women be allowed to be as gross as men are in comedies,
Hmm.
and not have the beauty standards on necessarily. This is a very much in that vein of women being wild and just destroying a buffet of food,
Wow.
and very strange. I found it very funny. um, Certainly not for everyone. It's on the Criterion channel. It's also only 76 minutes, so if you're unclear whether or not you're going to like it, you can. It's a small time commitment. And
You're right.
it
It
was
sounds
definitely a controversial movie in Czechoslovakia at the time. It was
yes.
considered an attack on the authoritative regime. So
Of course it
if
was.
something seems very strange, know that it is actually direct political symbolism.
Yeah.
So,
Our favorite. Our favorite.
exactly.
Well, cool. I have to put it on my list then. That's on my watch list. That's a
Cool.
good pick. Okay, so moving on along, folks. My number 4 is a 2021 movie. So we're back in the era. It was a highly anticipated 2021 release for many reasons, I think, but it certainly was kind of a surprise to me how much I did enjoy it. And this is Dune, the Dune
Oh,
re-release.
wow.
I it made it to my list. I am not a science fiction girl much, and I came in blind. I knew nothing about Dune, and I do really like the storyline. I thought it was very interesting, but more so, I just want to give it up to the credit of this really, really, I thought, highly beautiful film. And
Mm.
it kind of, especially in 2021, we're watching so many things like on a little tiny screen. I can't, this is a side note, but people that watch movies on their phones, like how do you do that?
Yeah.
And I know I'm guilty of watching it on my smaller laptop screen a lot for 2020 and 2021. So to go into an expansive theater and watch a movie that really does feel like it was meant to be seen in the movie theaters again was just a really fun experience and very cathartic after this
Mhm,
time of
absolutely.
watching tiny little screen movies. Cinematography wise, it blew me away. It really got me back into the idea of like grandiose cinema
Mm.
and creating larger worlds that you can really fall into when you're engrossed like that in the cinema. So it was a fun like theater watch, obviously, for me. That's why I'm kind of like putting it on my list as well. But it was surprising. Like, I didn't know anything about it. And it was fun to get me into the mindset of otherworldly cinema as well. Like,
Mhm.
I guess it would just be like sci fi in general, but it was well done, I think, in
Right.
that regard.
No, I fully agree. I'm glad that's on your list. And yeah, that was, I mean, there's literally documentaries made about the difficulties of adapting
Yeah,
Dune.
right.
And yeah, I think I'm gonna butcher his name for the second time in the podcast. Denis Villeneuve, I think, nailed it
Yes.
in terms of this is the scope it should be was
Hmm.
fantastic. And yeah, I also very much enjoyed it and very excited to see the next.
I know.
I am a newer fan of Dune. Like I finished the novel knowing I had time to read it before
That's right.
that, but so I'm not a fan who's been waiting for decades for
Yeah.
the good version to come out. But I also think this is it's cool to see for people who have to get that, for people who've
Yeah.
been a fan of this book, been faithfully waiting
That's
for
true.
a more faithful adaptation of it.
And
Although I
did
will
you watch the
confess,
original adaptation
I'm a
stuff?
big fan of the David Lynch 80s version,
Yeah.
actually.
Well,
Yeah,
it's David Lynch too. That's why I
yeah, exactly.
figure.
It's one of my favorite directors, and like I do enjoy that's a little bit more wild with like the color
Yeah.
and everything. But this is actually very sad. He's been offered a few times to re-release his original cut of that, and at this point, he just doesn't won't do it.
Mm.
It was just such an upsetting process for him initially that even though he's
Oh,
been offered to re-release the version, he doesn't want to go back to it. So I will
interesting.
see that version someday. I hope that's something that eventually comes out of because they slashed his runtime pretty
Yeah.
drastically. And I mean, they're doing 2 Dune movies now. It's a big book, so it
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But I also had a lot easier time following David Lynch's version after reading the book.
Okay. Hmm.
So if you don't know what Dune is and you just watch the 1984 version, it's a lot. It's a lot
That's
to
what I
take on.
heard, like criticisms
Yeah,
for the previous release. So
yeah.
I've, like I said, going into it completely blind, I felt handheld through the world
Right.
a little better.
Yeah, I think they did a better job of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Cool. All right, so that was your number 4 pick. I'm going to do one from 2021 as well. Actually, I'm going to do a documentary, the Sparks Brothers documentary. Are you familiar with this movie, Megan?
I maybe have heard that there was one, but I didn't know.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So Edgar Wright had 2 movies that came out last year. He had Last Night in Soho, which was also great.
Okay.
And I was really debating which one I liked more because he had this documentary about a musical band called Sparks. I just keep thinking about this movie so much. Sparks is a band that's been around for 50 years now. They have 25 albums. They've started in the late 60s. They're still going. It's 2 brothers. It's just 2 brothers. And they have a very wild story that is a lot of very close calls to getting much more famous and much more success than they actually got. They had several opportunities where were making a movie with like Tim Burton and Jacques Tati, and that which is their dream to be involved in a movie and projects falling through. So it is very much about their band and their music, but they're people who love movies. So it's a documentary that really plays to that. And it just really raised the bar on what a music doc can be for me. Watching other ones subsequently, they're just not nearly as fun or as funny as Edgar Wright made this and as innovative. I got to see them live actually years ago before I fully knew about them. They did an album and a tour with Franz Ferdinand
No way.
called FFS, and I saw that show. It's one of the best shows I've ever seen. And then I tried to go back and get into them, and there was at that point I think 22 albums, and I was like, I don't know where to start. And they were glam rock and they were pioneers in electronic music and a lot of other
Wow.
things in between. And so frankly, I think I was waiting for Edgar Wright to make this movie where they do
Sure.
walk through chronologically by album for me
Cool.
to be able to get into them. So folks, if you are never heard of Sparks before, you've been a fan for a long time, or somewhere in the middle, this is a great movie. It's very fun. It's a
Hmm.
lot of great celebrities are in there, like Patton Oswalt is in there. Beck. It's largely interviews with the artists themselves, though, which is great.
Wow.
But
That's
very
really
fun.
cool.
It's on streaming on Netflix now.
Oh, no way. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
wondering about that because we've had a lot of good music documentaries, I feel like, in
yeah. Like
2021.
the Velvet Underground documentary was also good.
I was thinking of the Beatles. I'm
Oh yeah,
blanking
there's
on
Get Back.
Get
Yeah,
Back. Yes, yeah.
yeah,
Dang.
yeah.
Well,
This was a good. And then there was the Summer of Soul
Okay.
So yeah, there was a lot of good ones out last year, but
Maybe
this is the one
people,
that stuck out to me the most.
they may just have had the time to like deep dive into 22 albums, like you
I mean, I
said.
think that's true, Ash. I mean, I think that was definitely the case for Peter Jackson because I was like going through archival footage, from
Gosh.
1970 or something. Yeah,
That's really cool. I really love archival footage things and
yeah.
feeling in it. Like I'm all about that. Like I think it's so cool. So that'd be really cool. I'm interested. Good pick, Seth. All right, guys. Well, we have moved on to this is my number three.
All
So
right.
I am at another 2021 pick, and I have touted this movie on the podcast before for sure. So I'm like, people, it's not a surprise that it's on my list. It's a little surprising that it's like a little bit higher up, but I will explain why it's not a little lower down. But I
Okay.
am going with The Green Knight for
Nice.
my number three. It was a very, very fun played into my English major heart movie. I remember really enjoying that story, Sir Gawain and the
Hmm.
Green Knight, when we watched when we read it for undergrad. Seth and I went to the same college, everybody, and we were both
Yeah.
English majors, largely with the same professor. Shout out
Yes,
to
I was gonna say you
Gorsh.
had Gorsh for this.
Yeah. So our Professor Gorsh, classic, straight out of the 70s professor. We love him, and
Yes.
he's really amazing. Like I got a lot out of that story because of our professor, which I'm sure like a lot of English majors can attest to. It's the power of the professor
Yeah.
bringing things out in these hundreds of year old stories. And this one was so fun. I really loved seeing a cinematic adaptation of it in a way that this is an A24 film, and oh boy is it, because it was it really was like it had a lot of A24 isms in there, which is a little, it's also like pegging it for me a little bit down because it was a little long, I would say. Like I think it had some of those classic like 1 minute 30 long shots, which are stunningly beautiful, but in a movie as long as this, it's a little like grudging to sit through for 2 hour 30, but wow. I mean, majority of why I'm putting it on my list is the choice of Dev Patel. I mean, I know I'm a super fan, but I really am, like, in thinking about it, I'm just such a fan of him as an actor. I really feel like I've been a fan for a long time since his British role in Skins,
Oh, I didn't
following.
realize he was in that.
He was, and
Wow.
he's really, really good in it. I watched that at an appropriate time for me. Like I was like a teenager myself watching Skin, so I was so into it. And I just think that he really like is able to give a lot to the roles that he takes on.
Mhm.
And it was a win, such a win for me to represent South Asian men in this role and to literally be one of the first, especially like medieval Canterbury Tale. Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't expect a South Asian Indian man to be the lead role for this. So I was really, really happy and proud to see that. And I just think he did a great job. It's a really fun role and like a different role for him. And I was so happy with that casting. With all of the casting in the movie is actually like really
Yeah.
fantastic. Cinematography is great. So it was quite a reminder to me of how much I love these English retellings. Classic tales can really, really work, I feel like, for the modern audience. And this is a testament to why for me.
That's another intentional casting of, like, I think the director of David Copperfield referred to as a colorblind casting. If we're not commenting on the fact that he's a Southeast Asian
Mm,
man, he's British David Copperfield.
sure.
That's how the whole movie's cast, and I really like that. But yeah, because he's a great David Copperfield, he's a
Good.
great Sir Gawain, and yeah, I agree. This was after, I think we talked about this a little bit in our second episode about the essay. It's very great to see a Southeast Asian actor get such great roles,
Hmm.
such meaty roles, and yeah, they're both very different and challenging
Right.
roles, and he absolutely nailed them. Yeah, absolutely loved that movie as well.
Hmm.
I was pretty sure it was going to be on your list, so
Yes.
that was like the one guess that I had.
I know. That
Um,
wasn't a surprise for
yeah,
Seth.
but I'm glad it was on there.
Hmm.
I'm going to go back again, and for my number three, do a older movie again.
Hmm.
This is 1955. It's The Night of the Hunter by Charles Laughton and starring the always great Robert Mitchum. Have you heard of this one, Megan?
Night of the Hunter. I don't believe so.
So this is a movie that is up my alley that I don't think was available streaming for a while because I missed the windows, because I've been really looking forward to watching this for quite a while. And the main premise is Charles Laughton is a murderous preacher who has his quote unquote own deal with God. So, which is great. Already I'm in of this psycho religious person.
Hmm.
He has love and hate written on his knuckles. The main premise is he, while in prison, becomes aware of an inmate who's dying,
Mm.
has a lot of money hidden away. And this is, I believe, during the Depression. And guy dies. He goes there, tries to remarry his widow and
Mm.
convince the kids to tell him where it is. And the oldest kid, who's not old, he's like 6, is smart enough to know what's happening and is keeping the cash hidden. And so it's a very harrowing tale of the mother just really falls for this out of town preacher who's a
Ooh.
very handsome man and a very dark
Sure.
character with very particular views about sexuality and everything. But it's a
I'm
very
sure.
intense story that is mostly this 6-year-old trying to protect his family. And he has a younger daughter who's dumb enough to not fully understand what's going on, just because she's like 4
A
and he's
kid.
6, exactly.
Yeah.
And his mom is, taken in by this guy. So it's a very intense thing that was beautifully shot, great
Ooh.
acting, fantastic movie. It's a movie that also is really sympathetic for kids. And I, in a way that I wasn't expecting it to be, even with what I knew about it, and in a way that was genuinely touching to me.
I was just gonna say that I really like kid competent movies,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
for the time period, that's pretty like surprising actually,
Hmm.
especially if respect your elder kind of mentality is there. I mean,
Yeah.
that's actually very interesting to me, so that's cool.
No, it is. It's directed by Charles Lawton, who's a British actor
Mm.
who this is the only movie he ever directed. And from my understanding, it's because everyone kind of hated him. He was kind of a rude drunk, unfortunately. And so
Okay.
he made one great
Uh,
movie. And then I think Hollywood's like, all right, that's not the movie we thought you were going to make. It's a little more challenging, a lot darker.
yeah.
You don't get to make another movie. So it's a shame we only have the one from him, but man, an amazing wonder of a director.
That's
So
really
Night of the
cool.
Hunter, I believe that's also streaming on Criterion right now. It might be
Okay.
on HBO Max.
I told Seth before we were gonna get a lot of like variation with our list.
Yes.
But that it works really well. So I'm loving your list, Seth.
Thank you, and likewise.
Okay, so let's move on. Well, let's like 360 it with my like second pick here because guys, it came to a Marvel movie for my
Oh
second.
wow.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I know like we any podcast followers of ours, our like, kind of stance on Marvel. I feel like we've talked about it a kind of a lot, so I'm trying to like get away from that,
Yeah, I think
Look,
we've talked
guys.
about it a lot more than we intend to.
Yeah, this is not a Marvel like fan podcast, promise. This is not what that is.
We're not closet fans.
Yes, it's not turning into that. You guys know our stance. I'm still very much I think the best way to phrase it is like Marvel just is what it is. But this year really kind of that didn't change that for me, but it really helped me like get back into them a little bit and appreciate them for what they are. And I think it was just like cathartic for me to experience a little bit more Marvel movies. This year coming back into cinema after we have been again like exposed to movies only on our laptops, like it is fun
Right.
to go in, kind of be enthralled into this thing, which is a Marvel movie, and just kind of enjoy it. But the pick of the year for me for Marvel, for a lot of people I'm sure, is a Spider-Man No Way Home. I was torn too. I talked previously that Shang-Chi was a really big important Marvel movie for me and is actually probably like in the whole lore of it all is probably my favorite Marvel movie right now, I would say. But Spider-Man No Way Home was just such a fun theater going experience for me that I had to put it on my list. People were cheering in the theater again, and I am just all up like that makes me really happy. So it was just so fun. I saw it opening day. My partner is the biggest Marvel fan, so to see like his excitement was extremely exciting, and it was just like really kind of fun and cool to be a part of, especially that opening day like energy.
Oh yeah.
I'll remember it. Like I thought it was so cool. We got to see Willem Dafoe as like Green Goblin is so literally amazing to me. He's just so like fucking cool. I just really really loved it, and I liked that they hyped up the right things. They hyped up the that Green Goblin was coming back. Spoiler alert! If anybody hasn't
Right.
seen it yet, and then the three Spider-Man thing was like really cool, and it is kind of inventive in a way. They're also like it's a little bit pandering, like they're pandering to what the audience wanted a lot. But I mean, I was super down for it. It was just so fun, and I could just feel and see how excited people were, including my partner, who was just like clutching his pearls the whole time. I think experience-wise, it was just so memorable. I like couldn't not put it high up there on my list for 2021. It was like truly just a memorable moment and
Yeah,
a good film. It was deeply emotional. I was so surprised by how good that was done, how well that was done, I should say. And just kind of a surprise for me of how much I did enjoy it, but I did.
that's awesome. I'm so glad you liked it. So the big question, Megan, is did you get enough Defoe in that movie?
No, of course not.
Okay, there's no
I
such
want
thing.
there's no the limit doesn't exist for Defoe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the Lighthouse doesn't have enough Defoe for us. So
You know what, Seth? I still need to watch The Lighthouse.
I think we might need to do that next, actually. I,
And I heard that he had pretty like, or The Lighthouse has Green Goblin tendencies and like vice versa. So I
I would
think
say, yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
I think he gets a little wishy-washy there in his character. So I gotta watch
Yeah,
that.
fantastic. Very glad you had that. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, we can have a powerful experience watching a movie with loved ones at home. It's a very unique experience to be seeing a movie that everybody is loving
Yeah.
at the same time, at the
Mhm.
same level. Like some of my favorite movie experiences are seeing Jordan Peele movies in
Yeah,
theaters because
for
everyone
sure.
is freaking out in the same way about the same thing, and it's
Same.
fantastic. Okay, well, my number two is a movie that I just barely missed. I think it had a pretty limited release
Mhm.
stateside. It came out in 2020, but is thankfully on Hulu now. And this is the Danish movie Another Round by Thomas Vinterberg, who is if folks are familiar with Dogma 95, this isn't a Dogma 95 movie, but he was the one of the co-creators of that with Lars von Trier. So he's part of that. Comes out of that school, that aesthetic. A great Danish director's been doing this since the 90s. Man, this movie really got me. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Are you familiar with the premise, Megan?
Not at all,
Okay, so
actually.
the premise
Yeah.
it's Mads Mikkelsen, which is going to be the drawing factor for a lot of folks, and
Mm.
it's four middle-aged guys are meeting for a birthday party, and one of them, who's Mads Mikkelsen, just kind of starts to break down a little bit about how work's not going great, and out of nowhere, one of them suggests a study he read that says humans actually are supposed to have a certain amount of alcohol in their bodies at all time, and we should be slightly buzzed all day, and that's healthier. And they don't question this. They just say, well, let's, for research, let's do that. So without telling,
For research.
right, it doesn't seem like they tell their wives this or anyone else. They just decide to do this, and they're taking
Right.
it very seriously. They are actually writing an academic paper on this. And so, yeah, they start to be buzzed all day. And it's a very interesting midlife crisis movie. It's very funny, and in many ways, their lives do get improved. Obviously, there's some downfalls that happen. It has a very cathartic ending, and it doesn't go the way one would expect. And I think it's not so many American midlife crisis movies involve the lead is getting their feet back on the ground by having an affair with a younger woman.
Right.
And this is American Beauty or something, and this is not that movie at all. It feels a lot more grounded. There's a lot of just joy of watching these four friends get drunk and dance around together,
Nice.
and do
It's like a
stupid
friend
things.
comedy.
It is a friend comedy, but also like there are real stakes, and I think
Sure.
it's played out logically. So
Okay.
Mads Mikkelsen is absolutely fantastic in it. I think it did win Best Foreign Picture last year, so
Wow.
highly recommend that one. And it examines drinking's place in culture, and it's important that it's a Danish movie because it's not an American culture. It begins with a school rally that happens that is a kind of thing for teenagers, like this crazy relay race that involves a lot of chugging of beer and several other unique things. So it's not exactly a teetotal movie, but
Sure.
it does kind of advocate for a more closer examination of one's relationship to alcohol, and
Interesting.
cultural relationship to it. So
I mean, I
yeah.
think I can speak for both of us, Seth, but we're big fans of subversive plot lines of
Yes.
especially that counters any Western isms. So
Right.
that certainly sounds like a counter. Like I have not heard of that, especially in films regarding, like you said, midlife crises.
Right.
That's pretty unheard of. So
Yeah.
that sounds cool. That's very interesting.
I really, and Matt Nicholson is fantastic in it.
Awesome. Great pick. That's cool. I had
Right.
not heard about it. Okay, folks, we're quickly moving along, and we're on my number one pick for 2021 movies. Unfortunately, it's not a movie that came out in 2021, but it is a fairly recent release in 2019. It was an immediate yes for me. Like I just knew it was going to be it. probably quickly to the top. It may be on my top film list of all time, which is really exciting. So I found a certainly a winner for me and an inspiration, and that is going to be in Taika Waititi's Jojo Rabbit. This movie is everything I love. There's no other way to say it. It's just that I loved it. And it was one of those movies that inspires you. If you're into film, like it inspires you to want to write again, want to like direct again, want to create scenes again. It just spoke to my soul a lot. The plot is that a young Nazi boy is growing up in Nazi Germany and he has to deal with being a Nazi in a time when it's not too favorable. It's coming to the end of World War II, so it's basically just not favorable for him to be a Nazi, and his ideologies are certainly being questioned about this figure that is Hitler in his mind that he has created. So that's a very like crude interpretation of what this movie is really about, but the sarcasm in it, the ability to play with history and human nature was just so right up my alley. I mean, like I said, like this was an instant classic for me. It got me back into wanting to make film. I think people have a lot of it came with its own criticisms as well when it first came out, because people were still to this day surprisingly saying you can't touch Nazism, you can't touch things that happened in World War II because it's just too traumatizing. I argue against that, and I think this film does brilliantly show that it's certainly possible. But yeah, folks, this film really got me back into wanting to be a filmmaker. I think a lot of people have films like that for them, and this was certainly one for me. I was just all about it. It's very, very funny as well, which I understand is like very hard to do. All the jokes for me land like pretty surprisingly. I'm a little bit like of a comedy like snob a little bit. I don't tend to give myself over as well to comedy, and I think it's hard to get. I think comedy is a very difficult genre to do in general, and I was just like floored by how funny this movie is, how heartfelt it is. Cinematography is stunningly beautiful, and Taika Waititi does such a great job of portraying Nazi Germany at the time, which was actually like we're so used to black and white films from World War II, and this film is in beautiful, brilliant color and set designs indicative of that time period. So that was really fun to see, and it just was right up my alley. If I make a movie, I want it to be like this. And so, like I said, like this may be on my top 10 list of all time movies.
Wow.
So Seth, have you seen it yet?
I haven't yet. I'm so glad you're telling me about it though, because
Mhm.
I think it's a movie that I was very excited to see. Then kind of ebb and flows, I forget about it, and
Yeah.
I will hopefully watch it this weekend. I think it's on HBO Max right now. So
Ooh, that's exciting. Yeah. Please watch it, Seth. We got to talk
I
about
will.
it. We got to talk about it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was definitely one I was following closely when it came out.
Sure. Yeah. I know. I'm like one of those people. If I like it, I'll watch all the behind the scenes stuff that I
Yeah.
can. I would say watch that as well. Like Taika Waititi's take on everything is just so poignant and so like just spot on. Like I really agree with his choices for this movie in terms of like every literally almost everything. So fun. Such a good, just like a good movie. Like it felt so fun to watch a good movie.
Right. And I think this was what he did immediately after Thor Ragnarok,
I
right?
believe so.
So I definitely respect that
Yeah.
coming from
Well,
doing a
yeah.
big budget to a much more challenging fare.
I heard that it was actually in the works for like 11 plus years,
Oh
and
wow.
other Marvel movies like put that on hold for him because like he was director for those. So I mean I appreciate his like patience, I guess,
Right.
and I think it really shows like it shows how it was certainly more of a passion project, I feel like, and so well done.
Fantastic. It's
Mhm.
looking forward to watching that one.
I'm excited to hear your takes on it.
Cool. Okay. Well, that leads me to my top film, which is the favorite film I saw in 2021, and also my top film that came out in 2021. So this
Good.
is a double, and that is The Tragedy of Macbeth. As
Oh.
aforementioned, we're English majors, I'm a Shakespeare fan. That being said, though, I am
I would say picky about a Shakespeare adaptation. I don't watch any and all of them.
Mhm.
And some of my favorite movies are Shakespeare adaptations.
Sure.
I'm a big fan of Chimes at Midnight. I'm a big fan of Kurosawa's Throne of Blood, which is also Macbeth. But this movie, beyond being a Shakespeare adaptation that's great, was just so exciting for me to find out what it was going to be, because this is a historical thing. This is the first Coen brother movie directed by just one Coen brother.
Wow.
Joel Coen directs this solo, and I think this was shocking news to people who follow the Coen brothers, that they were kind of splitting in this. They've been making movies closely together since the 80s. They have repeatedly said in the last decade or so, we're done answering questions about how we work well together. We work well together. We keep doing this. Like, there's nothing there. Like, there's no turmoil or anything. And so there was a lot of like, oh, did they actually snap? And it doesn't sound like that's what happened. From what's going on, it seems Ethan Coen has just been working on plays lately in LA and is happy doing that, and wasn't as interested in this one. So it seems like it's pretty amicable, which is a
Good for him.
huge huge sigh of relief for me. But also,
Sure.
once you get past the kind of fear, it's, well, what's the first movie that Joel Coen would do, and how is it going to be different? And it's very different. It still feels like a Coen brother movie, or at least a Joel movie, and it still has a lot of the same characters. You want to see, like, Frances McDormand is of course in it. That's his wife as Lady Macbeth, and there's some Stephen Root, some other usual suspects. But this isn't just a by the books, well directed Macbeth. This is a highly stylized movie that the sets look like a German expressionist or like a Escher painting. You never really see a full outside shot of the castle that makes sense. You're always in this very daunting building that is really effective and very stylized, but you never think you're in a real place. You think you're in the land of Macbeth, in this movie. And fantastic performance. I'm very excited that Denzel Washington's nominated for Best Actor. I really hope he wins that. I think it also definitely deserves the other 2 Oscars it's nominated for, of cinematography, because it's stunning, and set design, because it's very impressive sets, and
Filmed in black and white, right?
filmed in black and white,
Nice.
beautiful black and white. And
Yes.
so you have expert Shakespearean actors doing this.
Yeah.
It's not a gimmick thing like Romeo plus Juliet, although that's fine with me too. But it is a very stylized thing that references Kurosawa and Wells, and actually Night of the Hunter, the previously mentioned movie,
Wow.
and German Expressionist, among other things.
Nice.
I think people are still going to be pointing out references to it throughout. I loved it. I was kind of nervous about it, but absolutely blew me away, and quickly jumped to my favorite film. of the
It's
year.
Shakespearean language used throughout.
Yes,
correct?
it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. I think it's what Macbeth is. I think it is the shortest tragedy, and even
Sure.
still, it's trimmed down a little bit. But
Yeah.
this is a very tight movie. It's 90 minutes.
Wow.
And, yeah, right. Which is not, you're not expecting a tight paced thriller
No.
with a Shakespeare adaptation, especially with Shakespearean actors. But it was fantastic.
Oh my God.
Anne and I actually got to see Frances McDormand on stage as Lady Macbeth at the Berkeley Rep Theater.
No way.
She was also one of the witches, and
Oh, that's
so that-
cool.
fantastic. So
Wow.
that was one of the reasons I was excited for. Like, I've literally seen her play this character before.
Yeah.
And she's great. They simplify, I think, some scenes, but they don't, to my knowledge or memory, dumb down the language.
Okay. Mhm.
Um,
Is that your preference? I think it's mine.
I think it's mine. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, is it something like Clueless being Jane Austen's Emma? Like, that's fun.
Yeah.
I like
sure.
that. But I also I like other adaptations of actual Emma.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, I
agree.
can appreciate that, but I prefer. I love. I mean, the whole point of Shakespeare is the words. So
Exactly.
I
Mhm.
appreciate hearing those and hearing them said by people who are excellent at saying them, and
Yeah.
understanding them, and understanding the various meanings of them.
It's fun. Yeah, Shakespeare's not dead.
No,
like,
absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
gonna continue on, and I think
Yes.
that's really exciting too. So,
Yeah.
oh, that's amazing. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that's on your that's your top, Seth. My sister watched it, was really floored by it, so I gotta get
It's
it on there.
on Apple Plus right now, I believe.
Wow. I know, and it's also exciting that these films that we're talking about are like becoming more readily available as
Yes, yeah.
as we talk about them. So of course, we want to encourage like going to the movies to support these films, but you can support these films by just watching them,
Right.
just choosing them. So,
Well,
um,
going back to your dad watching the Pluto TV, the Pluto TV has a lot of great stuff, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like a free app, and
exactly.
they have channels that just play old movies all day. But also, like, there's a lot of good and sometimes newer stuff that is just on there. So
Right. Watch those classics, guys. Things are becoming more readily available, so take advantage as you can.
yeah, and that's a thing that I'm actually happy about. With like, I understand a filmmaker not liking the dual release of Dune being in theaters and on HBO at the same time, but I'm glad I had the choice. I'll be honest, I watched it at home, but I did have my sound system set up, so it was closer. But,
Not on your phone.
yeah, exactly. I did not did not watch on my phone, thankfully. But
I won't chastise you.
thank you, I appreciate it. So many others will.
No,
But
okay.
yeah, I really, as a consumer, enjoy that choice. But that being said, yeah, certainly for smaller theaters and for smaller movies, I'm going to give a quick honorable mention to Nightmare Alley. That's another movie that came out last year that I just watched recently that I loved. And Martin Scorsese actually wrote an open letter to the public saying, please go see this movie. And because
he
it's
did.
not doing well in the box office. And I thought that was so cool to see a director who's been around as long as Scorsese support. I mean, not that Del Toro is new to the game or anything.
Yeah.
But seeing him being so open with his admiration for a movie
That's sweet.
was great.
Best picture nomination right there.
Yes.
Folks.
Yeah.
So do you have any more honorable mentions, Seth? We've made it through our list, everybody.
Yes, we have. I have a
we-
couple. I think
I'd love to hear.
Licorice Pizza is an audible mention for me too. I always love Paul Thomas Anderson. A lot of people are calling this like a hangout movie, and it is, but it also like there's a few times where the stakes get shockingly real that play as very good suspenseful scenes. But it is just fun to see two breakout leads. It's Philip Seymour Hoffman's son is Cooper Hoffman is in it, and
Oh, I didn't realize that.
yeah, and Philip Seymour Hoffman and Paul Thomas Anderson worked a lot together. They were very close. So it's very cool to see his kind of spirit live on by working with a director who he's so associated with. And Alana Haim in the lead is fantastic. And hopefully we're going to see more of her. But
Cool.
Just great chemistry between those two and fun, wild cameos from Bradley Cooper and Tom Waits. I think I mentioned my other ones. Last Night in Soho would be the other one really recommended. And actually both Licorice Pizza and Light in the State and Soho did something I really liked of Last Night in Soho was more direct with this, of making us reevaluate this decade we maybe idolize. And it's in Soho, it's very direct because it's a woman who keeps fantasizing about the 60s, realizing actually there's a lot of shitty stuff happening.
Oh,
So,
good. That's very interesting.
yeah, it's a little bit more casual with Licorice Pizza, but I think there does address some of the lackings in the culture and
Sure.
some of the progress we've made, and who was this a better time for question.
Nice. Nice. Very important
Yes.
to think about. Certainly. Oh, cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, what about for you, Megan?
So I realized that my honorable mentions, literally all of them, are actually horror, of the horror genre
okay.
and or
Nice.
thriller. So my first one is, I know that Seth and I have both seen this. So Old is an
Yeah.
honorable mention for me.
Yeah.
I watched this movie again with my partner, but we watched it in a drive-in, a drive-in
cool.
movie, which is, I would highly recommend. Like that was the way to watch this movie. It's very, very ridiculous. When Seth and I talked a little bit about it, and it's very like Twilight Zone-esque
Mhm.
to me. I think it would have warranted a little bit better for like TV, to be honest, or
Right.
or like really lean into that zaniness, because it was very zany, and I enjoy that, but
Yeah.
it was like trying to be pretty self-serious, I feel like, and I was disappointed with the ending, but
Mhm.
it was just so like crazy and fun that we had a really good time watching it. It was a laugh watch, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was fun. Like, we had a good time with it, and I think it's a little disappointing. Like, M. Night Shyamalan is very very talented to me, but this ending in particular, I felt it was just like kind of a bit of a throwaway for me, is what I felt. It's tough because I was really into the storyline. Like, I thought it was actually very interesting, and then for him to just kind of like poo-poo it away at the end was pretty like anticlimactic for me. So I think that's why I was just like, oh, M. Night, why are you doing this to me? It really is
Right.
kind of painful to watch at the end, but a fun movie. I mean, at least an interesting one at that, and we had a good laugh. an even bigger laugh is my second pick, which I think Seth watched this as well, which is Malignant. Which,
Yeah.
so I did not know about, I don't think many of us did, about like the parody aspect that is Malignant. I went in being like, I am a Conjuring fan. James Wan is the director for this movie, so
Yeah.
I was very like gung ho for a James Wan Conjuring-esque horror movie, and also it was just like very. I think my theater was cursed or something because there was nobody in the theater.
Oh
So I
wow.
literally felt I was in like a fucking like fever dream or something, and it was
That's
this
a weird movie to see in an empty theater.
right. And, like it was. This movie is just like so crazy and ridiculous. Like ridiculous is the best word I could say for it. So again, another like laugh watch, but I was just floored. I mean, it's so ridiculous you can't look away. So I was
Yeah.
certainly enthralled by it. And it got me and Seth talking. Like we were talking about how like why is this so like not triggering for us, but like it just brings something out about movie making in general and like why would people do this? And it's a good way to get back into the medium, I guess, like get back into critiquing this medium that we certainly love so much, and it's thought-provoking in that way.
No, so those are two movies I think we had just recently seen when we were laying plans to record our first episode.
Right.
And so that was in the background, I was talking about those. And
Mhm.
because it's, both of these are not hacks, these are established Hollywood directors,
Yeah.
especially Night Shyamalan's been doing this for a long time. And there's money involved. This is not a movie that's going to end up on riff tracks, or maybe it will, but it's not a movie that was made in South Africa in 1978 for $50,000.
Yeah.
This is
Mhm.
a professional grade thing, and I think it is important to watch. It's like, well, what's happening? How
Yeah.
did this happen? Why these
Why?
choices? And
Yeah.
what's the intention? Because I agree, both those are laugh watches for me, and I think I am still under clear on both of them how self-serious the director took
Sure.
them to be.
Yes.
Because they're very. I think I told you this, Megan. We had recently moved to Milwaukee, my wife and I, when we were invited by our new friend group to go see Old, and we're both a little weary about it. So it's like, we're going to be laughing at this movie. Are they going to be not laughing at this movie? Is this going to end the friendship? And thankfully, they were also laughing at the movie, and
Yes.
we're walking out of the theater talking about how dumb it is. And it's like,
Yeah.
this was a group of maybe like 6 people. That's not even that big of a group. It's been a long time since like high school, maybe, since I've gone with like more than 3 people to
Sure.
a movie. That was a great communal let's laugh at something
Yeah.
experience. I definitely value those. I mean,
Mhm.
I have not seen Moonfall, the movie that's out right now that a lot of people are enjoying
Me
watching
either.
for the premise is the moon is falling. End of premise. So this is a movie that from my understanding, is aware that it's crazy and wild, but then there's fun, dumb action sequences. And as much as I enjoy making rock and, and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's also kind of fun to get a bowl of popcorn and watch something like Old,
Yeah.
So
I mean, like I said, it was a surprise to me. I went in very earnestly, I guess, to both of these movies, and that's just kind of like what we got taking away from both of them. So it's a surprise, and it's always fun to like be challenged, have your expectations challenged. I have actually one more that I
great.
finally got around, and it is horror as well, to watching the Blair Witch Project for the first time ever.
Oh, did you?
And I enjoyed it. I thought it held up great. I did not know, for some reason, I just didn't realize, or I didn't know about like the psychological aspects of the movie. And that for me is where it really shined. The actors, I thought, did a really, really good job of selling that to me. And I mean, the biggest critique of Blair Witch is the original, at least, is well, nothing happens. And I mean, yes, you're right, but it's a testament to story, I think, and just acting. I was very, very convinced and very highly spooked by their great performances. So I was very happy with it. It speaks totally to a young filmmaker's heart. It's the right way to do low budget for me, and I could see and appreciate and like want to honor that found footage like style and its origin, which is the Blair Witch Project. So it was such a fun watch. Like I can't believe I hadn't watched it yet, and
yeah,
I'm a huge like Paranormal Activity fan too.
Okay, then
the first one. So it was fun. It was important for me to watch, and I'm glad I did.
Nice. if you haven't seen the, I think the American version was called Quarantine. It might be okay. I don't know, but the Spanish original is called Wreck. That was
Oh,
maybe 2006,
I
2007.
heard it was really good.
That's a great found footage movie. Like that works really well.
Good.
And I think this was like by the time this came out, people were already saying like, oh, this genre's dying. If it's like that, I think that and Blair Witch proved there's something that
Yeah.
can still be done with this genre. But yeah, I also watched that movie the first time like 2 or 3 years ago. It's like, yeah, I like this. There's a lot of drama for me that works throughout. I don't need
Mhm.
buckets of blood for a movie to
Yeah,
get me. But I'm also a paranoid person, so you know.
true. It may play on anxieties, but it works.
Absolutely.
Worked for me.
I was going to ask, do you have any upcoming movies you're excited about that you want to talk about?
I certainly do. Oh, I would love, Seth, to talk about, you mentioned Jordan Peele as a like
Yes.
fun movie going experience. Get Out is one of those for me. It was one of my best movie like theater going
Yeah.
experiences of all time. And I know that Seth and I are both highly anticipating Jordan Peele's new release. It's called
Nope.
Nope. Oh, you said that the trailer came out, Seth, but I actually have not
Well, it was a teaser that has
Okay.
From the Mind of Jordan Peele, and then like 2 or 3 seconds of footage, and then check your calendar. It's coming out in July, but I think there's actually supposed to be a more full trailer coming out tomorrow, which is Super Bowl Sunday, folks. So I know what I'll be watching, and it's not the Super Bowl.
I'm watching the Super Bowl for the halftime show with Dr. Dre and
oh, that's true. Yeah.
And commercials solely.
Fair
so
enough.
I do hope that it's a part of the commercials. That's
Oh, it
really
probably will be. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I generally forgot the Super Bowl was happening. I think like living in Milwaukee, once the Packers were out, no one has been talking about football in a while.
True.
Because they're too depressed, I think.
They're sad.
I forget these things, but that makes sense. That's why it's coming out tomorrow.
Oh my God. That's really
So
exciting.
hopefully we're going to have more ideas of that, but absolutely, I'm with you there. That is probably the movie I'm most excited about and to see specifically in theaters. For Get Out and for us, like the joy and laughter and screams that happen at the same time, especially in the scenes where like the characters in a position where they're starting to fight back, like towards the end of Get Out, or a slasher scene. And us, like slashers are fun to see in theaters, and yeah, it's just such a fantastic feeling that everybody having such a strong positive reaction. I love that in a horror movie where people are laughing not because it's generally a joke, but they're just, yeah, they fought back, they killed the bad guy.
Yeah.
Also on the note of horror, excited for, I'm not sure exactly what genre it's going to be, historical horror or what, but The Norseman is coming out, and that's from Robert Eggers, the guy who did The Witch and The Lighthouse. So he has one coming out. Ari Aster has a movie coming out with Joaquin Phoenix that I'm excited about. So I think it's going to be another good year for movies for us. Disappointment Boulevard, that's the movie. That's the Ari Aster movie coming out.
Wow, I have not heard about. I'm big Ari Aster fan here too.
Yes, absolutely.
That's very, and a big Joaquin Phoenix fan.
Yes,
that is really exciting.
It's a favorite. We have that, and then I think the last one for me is Killing of the Flower Moon. That's the Martin Scorsese one, and this is for Scorsese fans a big deal, not just because he's making a movie, but it's De Niro and DiCaprio in the same Scorsese movies. His 2 most frequent actors, most frequent leads are going to be in the same movie. So that's exciting.
His little darlings.
Exactly.
Back in a film again.
All right, folks. We've just recommended quite a few movies, so we're going to skip that section today. We will be back with a probably more traditional episode shortly, and keep an ear out. We're going to have a few more guests on the way.
Thank you, Seth. I loved hearing your list, and I'm excited to do it again.
Well. I think it's going to be a thing, a yearly thing. So I'm looking forward to it.
I certainly love hearing other people's lists as well. So that is what sprung us wanting to do this, and I hope you guys enjoyed.
Yes, and folks, on that note, feel free to write in to filmoptimist@gmail.com or add us at Twitter at filmoptimist. We'd love to hear your list. What were some of your favorite picks? Either new discoveries or things that actually came out in 2021. What are you watching? Tell us. What did you hope we're watching? Let us know. We might take recommendations or suggestions. So with that, this has been Film Optimist.